Hi everyone, and thanks for joining the third webinar on with Duality, how to increase data insights with actionable outcomes. My name is David. I'm a senior solution architect at Duality. With me on the line, we have Carlos. Hey, Carlos.
Hey guys, my name is Carlos. I'm also a senior solutions architect here at Duality, and we look forward to going through this presentation with you today.
In today's sessions, we are going to cover how to increase data insights with actionable outcomes. We are going to cover three main topics in this for this agenda. We are going to discuss the deployment process, how to arrange a POC. We are going to discuss the technical requirements before we actually going to install the solutions, and some actionable outcomes, how actually to get the most out of the solution. For any project that we begin at Duality, we have three main phases of the deployment process. But first thing that we do before is actually going through a discovery call with the customer. We would like to identify what are the pain points, what are the challenges, and based on that, we know exactly what would be the right solution for him that perhaps would be the best and get the most from our perspective. There are three main phases for every deployment process. I would call them scoping, implementation, and launch. In the first phase, we're actually defining what are the use cases and the success criteria. This is really to understand, like from the customer perspective, what are the main use case. And based on that, we are going to be able to define the right solutions at Duality. We're also going to design the architecture and make sure that all prerequisites are met. This will help to set up the solution, install the solution, and configure it properly. And perhaps for any project, we would like to have a focal point at the customer who will work very closely with our teams. So this focal point will be involved and will lead all the different tasks, resources, and timelines to make sure that we actually are going to meet the timelines or meet the deadlines accordingly. In the second phase, we are going to, based on everything that we have defined in the scoping, we are going to start the installation and setup and conduct functional testing end-to-end. This will ensure that the solution has been deployed successfully and now it's ready for the actual testing. We also want to make sure that we have integration with third parties to make sure that the solution is deployable with some other parties such as Active Directory, log systems, and so forth, and conducting the testing according to the success criteria. These are the success criteria that we have defined in the previous phase, and actually will make sure that every test case will be running successfully and meet the customer's requirements. And lastly, in the final stage, we are going to deploy the solution. We are going to make sure that all testings are conducted in the live environment and provide our support and expertise in case it's required for this project. This is going to summarize the deployment process. We are now going to talk about the technical requirements before we actually going to set up the solution.
Thanks, David. So I did want to talk about a few things before we jump into the technical requirements that are really important to establish before the beginning of the project. So the first thing is to start thinking about the sensitive data that you'd like to share, right? Whether it is a query project or statistical analysis or even machine learning, it's important to keep in mind the data that would make your collaboration easier, faster, or more secure. We also, in a query project, as an example, want all the participants to agree on a predefined data schema ahead of time, right? We want to make sure that all of the data is formatted in the same way, and that will speed up the deployment process significantly. In some cases, ahead of time, we also like to get predefined queries. Basically, these can be, queries that every single participant in the project agrees to ahead of time that they want to answer. And then we also can give participants the ability to either automatically approve of a particular query or require manual approval. So again, getting these types of questions out of the way before the deployment will actually speed up the process significantly. So we also do have several products, again, right, direct queries, statistical analysis, machine learning as well. So it's really up to the type of collaboration you guys are looking for. As a quick example, we give our customers the ability to do direct peer-to-peer projects or hub collaborations. So what I mean by that is, let's say your project involves multiple banks. We give the ability for bank A to ask a direct question to another bank. In a simple use case, let's say bank A wants to know if bank B suspects a particular customer of fraud. In this case, bank B will simply return the answer, yes or no. That's an example of a direct or peer-to-peer query. However, we also have the ability to do what's called a hub collaboration. What this allows bank A to do is say, hey, is this person suspected of fraud? Ask that question to every participant in the collaboration, and then get back an anonymized aggregate result, right? Instead of each bank saying yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, we'll simply get a result saying 3 of the 5 participant banks do have this user flagged as a suspected fraud, right? That allows the data to remain anonymized. No participant knows how the other participant answered, and might be the preferred way of approaching that particular project. So now let's talk about some of the technical requirements. So we are deployed, we're software right off the bat. So we are not a SaaS solution. No data ever gets sent over to us at Duality. All of the data remains on-prem. So any of those regulation or compliance requirements are satisfied or met. As far as OS support goes, we are currently supported to be deployed on Ubuntu or Red Hat. We are containerized deployment, so we run on Docker and Docker Compose, which makes spinning up an environment relatively quick and easy. Generally, we can do an installation in under a couple of hours. We also support many of the relational databases you or your customers might be working with, whether that's Oracle, Postgres, MySQL, Microsoft SQL. Again, any relational database is fully supported. As David mentioned earlier, we have several integrations with your existing security stack. For example, we can integrate with Active Directory or OpenID Connect to make authentication more secure. We can export logs into your existing SIM to create alerts around some of the Duality products, etc. Again, because we are containerized deployment, it's very, very easy for us to either scale up in terms of increasing resources or scaling out in terms of supporting customers in multiple locations. We have several collaborations with global participants, right? Where one participant may be in North America, one in Asia, one in Europe as well. Of course, like any other enterprise software, we have several options for high availability and backup, as well as a robust monitoring and logging implementation system. So at this point, I'll turn it back over to David so he can talk about some of the actionable outcomes.
Thanks, Carlos. So now that the installation and configuration have been completed, we would like to analyze the results and make sure it successfully meets the business requirements. First, we at Duality, as an expert in privacy enhancement technology, will share our best practices how to deploy the solutions effectively, from deployment and automations all the way to integrations and alerts. In terms of actionable outcomes, it really depends on the industry. We provide some examples from the multiple industries such as finance, insurance, healthcare. The solutions and actionable outcomes can be defined, for instance, to conduct a secure investigation between different teams, to analyze cross-border data and link between multiple organizations, accelerate and improve research between multiple entities, and monetize the data and your IP in order to enhance any other analyses that can be done by other organizations. These actionable outcomes are basically a part of the solutions and can be retrieved using our main dashboard web interface or RESTful API. And based on that, our customers can now take an actions which can lead into reducing the investigation time or cut the cost. From that point, now we are going to move for a quick demo in which we are going to show you the Duality Secure Plus platform and some examples that are being very common in the field. Back to you, Carlos.
Thanks, David. So, of course, the best way to see, the full capabilities of our product is to schedule a demo with either David or myself. But we'd just like to show you guys a couple slides as to what our web interface looks like. As David mentioned earlier, some of our customers are utilizing our web interface, but the majority of them are performing almost the entire evaluation via our APIs as well. So keep that in mind, right? You're more than welcome to build a custom web interface for your customers as well. But in this case, if we take a look here at the Duality Secure Plus platform, we can just see an example of a model inference project, right? In this case, we've got Acme as the model owner, and then we've got several different data organizations that have the data we'd like to run the model inference on. Again, right, this is just an example output, but think about the ability to run inference while either the model is encrypted or the data is encrypted. We give you several options on how you want to approach that. But again, right, the point here that we're trying to stress is that you're able to safely and securely deploy things that you had not been able to do before, because the data or the model, whichever is your IP, always remains encrypted. In this example, this is just a simple output of a inference analysis on, let's say a percentage of loans that are likely to be a fraudulent application, right? Or, statistical analysis on the correlation between an asthma reducing drug and obesity in patients, things like that. So again, right, each of the project scopes will be unique to you. But the main thing that we want you to keep in mind is that when you're thinking about, how can I get the most value from Duality, it's thinking about how can I maximize my data? How could I increase collaboration in the safest, securest way possible? Back to you, David.
Thank you, Carlos. And this is actually conclude our third webinar about data insights and using actionable outcomes. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to take them and address any questions. Thank you for your time and have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.